The UConn women seem unbeatable, but we brought in Maggie Vanoni to talk about if this team has any holes, what she saw at the open practice over the weekend, and we're going to get into all things UConn women's basketball coming up on the Hoops Gap.
Let's get it, 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 let's get it. Yeah. UConn, baby. Home of the champions. Let's go.
Welcome in. Thank you for making the Hoops Gap your first stop every day to talk about women's basketball, in particular the UConn Huskies here on Big East Energy. Follow our show on the Hoops Gap. You can follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, the whole deal. We should have a Big East Energy Instagram central hub soon. Wanted to just give a quick disclaimer. My audio in this pod today was not fantastic. I think the microphone was at a different setting, but Maggie sounds great. So if I sound like I'm farther away or the video is a little blurry, I apologize. I don't want to can the entire show. So if you're watching this on YouTube or you're watching it on Spotify Premium, I apologize for the technical difficulties, but it's great information from Maggie Vanoni, who is a UConn women's basketball beat writer for Hearst, Connecticut Media Group, Connecticut Insider, New Haven Register. She's a West Coast native. She used to cover UCLA. She was with the Seattle Times. Now in Connecticut, delivering absolutely in-depth coverage and great storytelling in one of the most storied franchises, women's basketball, turning into pro sports. However, one of the most storied college programs in women's college basketball history, the best in college in women's basketball history. So without further ado, I know I give my little disclaimer. Here's Maggie Vanoni. Maggie, we had a couple representatives from the Synergy go to the open practice, and for probably the last month, we've been talking about how good this team is and potentially can be. What do you see, just from your perspective, now that you've kind of seen them in person a few times practicing? Like, what's your overall thought process of this team as someone who's there?
Yeah, I think they're going to be – I mean, they have, I think, the best chance to repeat next year. We're looking at all the kind of heavyweights for next season for like women's college basketball. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you have Sarah Strong, who National Freshman of the Year, just scratching the surface of what we can expect from her potential. Always says that, their freshman year, it's the worst they're going to look, right? So I would expect even more things from her this year. AZ Flood, I think also she left last season on the highest of highs, winning Final Four, most outstanding player. She looked really good towards the end, really confident. I think if she can put together a complete healthy season, I mean, last year was mostly 80% complete, right? I think if she do 100% or even 90% or better, she gets the All-American and she just really established herself as a top lottery pick for next year, the WNBA, and just as someone this team can depend on at UConn. I think we're going to see more of a leadership role from her this year. She always kind of leads by example, but I think this year we're going to see her maybe get out of her comfort zone a little bit and really be that on the floor go-to veteran they look for as what do we do next? What's the next call? Caroline Ducharme looked really good in open practice. She looked really confident. She looked super loose and just played really freely, and I think that's huge for them. If they can get her even back in the starting lineup or even averaging 20 minutes again, like she was so strong for them before she got hurt. And so I think that's a huge, huge thing to have next season or this upcoming season. She also brings that leadership. I thought it was fun. During Sunday's open practice, she was leading the team huddles. CD and Geno were off to the side sitting, and she was leading the team huddles. And, like, she was the most vocal person, whether she was playing or not. So having her active on the court, playing for long stretches of time will be super important. And they're, like, Ashton Shade, KK Arnold, all a year older. They're officially upperclassmen, which is bizarre because it feels like they've been here for, 4 years already. Right. Then we have some of the newbies. We have, Blanca, Sarah Williams, Gandhi, Khalees. I think that's and Kaylee. And Kaylee Heckle looked really good. She was arguably one of the most impressive on Sunday. Just very quick release, looked very confident. again, looked very comfortable very early. And I think that's something that is very interesting with transfers, no matter what year they are. Are they going to be able to jump in and find their spot quickly, or did they kind of
Sure.
take a minute to feel it out and feel where they want their role to be? And she just looked at ease, like she looked really comfortable. So having her as a sixth player, or having her as just a backup to maybe KK running the point, that's going to be huge and helpful for them, especially since KK now will be that starting point guard, giving her the option to come off and have rest and have someone like Haley who knows what she's doing and can do it pretty well.
No, it's great. So you answered a couple questions in there that I think most people have want to know, which is, and one of the biggest questions is this team is so deep,
Mm-hmm.
and it's different than the last few years. How do you keep everybody happy? I think that's the question that I get the most. Like, what is Geno going to do? What is CD going to do? Are they going to platoon players? Are they going to have hockey lines? Like, what's the thought process that you asked or questioned?
Right. I mean, this is unknown territory for a while, right? They haven't had this many healthy players, knock on wood, for at least the last 4 or 5 years. So I think it's going to be super interesting to see how he uses them. I don't think we'll see him use hockey subs like Tennessee women's basketball does. I don't think that's quite his style. I do think he's going to try to balance it out. I mean, you can't please everybody. Not everybody can play, 30 plus minutes. You just can't. There's not enough minutes in the game. And so I think you're going to see him rely on his upperclassmen, on the people he knows really well, and then bring in these new people, these new faces slowly, if not, test them out, with different lineups, with different combinations. I think it's really interesting. I'm really excited to see how he balances that, and how we see maybe it's we get to the point where AZ's doesn't have to play 28 minutes a game, right? Where Strong doesn't have to play 28 minutes. They can be kind of stabilize around like 25, and that's great. And I think it's more people, more options. And then when you have tougher competition, you have more subs, and that's really great.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, do you think that the experimental grounds for checking out lineups might have something to do with they're probably going to be pretty dominant in the Big East, so having that flexibility to give 10, 15 minutes to a player that likely wouldn't do that against a Tennessee or a Ohio State. Is that something is that kind of what we've been talking about? That I'm just curious if you think we're on the right path there.
Yeah, I think that's definitely reasonable. I mean, last year, like we saw when they were in those blowout games, that Paige and the starters would come out a minute or two into the third quarter, right? And then you have the younger players kind of finish the game. And I think we'll definitely see that. UConn is again going to be the favorite in the Big East, and there's no Creighton anymore, right? Creighton lost its whole core, and so I think we're going to see UConn kind of be the top dog again. And we'll see. It'd be fun to see. Maybe Marquette comes up and challenges them. Maybe Creighton's younger core does develop really quickly and also becomes a challenger. But I definitely think he'll allow the younger players to kind of control the end of the game, especially if it's a blowout, as always, as we're expected.
Yeah, no. I also think that I think there's going to be some teams that will challenge UConn, but not for a full game. Like a great example would be there's two teams that I'm looking at. One of our shows on our network, Holy Nova, did a show yesterday with Denise Dillon, the head coach of Villanova. So I feel like that team has some decent players coming back and kind of dipped into the transfer portal as well as recruiting. And then Georgetown is always kind of a tough team. So I think those teams will challenge, but I just think there's too much. Like, it's like the waves of talent that UConn can bring into a game will just outwear and outlast teams. And I think that's kind of what we've really been talking about. How's Geno's mentality been? Like, what he seems like he's always kind of, especially now that he's older and has done this now 12-time champion, to kind of he seems so even keeled. Probably something different that some of the older players, like if you watch the Diana Taurasi documentary, probably don't recognize the guy. So what's his overall kind of aura been like this off season?
Yeah. So we haven't talked to him yet for the season. We talked to him in June during summer workouts. Hopefully we talk to him next week when they begin practices. In June, he was very, maybe even killed's the right word, maybe just kind of like at peace. I think it was a huge weight off his shoulders to bring Paige that championship and to have her go out on top. I think that was a very heavy burden, right? Because here's a superstar that was supposed to bring you back all this glory, and she got injured, and things changed. And I think having that really released a lot of pressure and a lot of stress from him. He's always said he doesn't do these championships for him anymore. These are for the players. He has already a lot. He already has 11, now 12. That this is life altering for his players, and he recognizes that. And so I think he came out of last season really kind of at peace and I don't know if relax is the right word, but maybe just like, okay, like that's done. It ended the way it was supposed to ended. I can move. We can step in a new direction. And I would imagine he's excited to have AZ kind of emerging again and emerging confident and emerging healthy. That's huge. And Sarah's strong as well.
Yeah, let's touch on Sarah, and then you mentioned Caroline, and I want to go back to her in a second. But Sarah, to me, ever since she stepped on campus, I've said she could arguably be, even when Paige was on the team, the best player in the country, just based off of the enormity of what she brings to the table. But not just like scoring, not just how incredible she is as a freshman, but like you could put her up against anybody in the country right now. And hell, I think if she was in the WNBA, she'd be pretty damn good there too. So what is it about her in particular coming into this sophomore campaign that maybe needs to improve? I saw her being a little more vocal, and they had had her mic'd up, and I was just like, that's great. Like, because as you know, she's very quiet and very reserved, and shy would be a word. Do you think that's kind of the next evolution, is for her to kind of be a little bit more of a vocal leader and kind of, and I say this with no animosity, like grow up a little bit in that respect, mature? Definitely.
I think they want her definitely to be more vocal. We saw it a little bit in the open practice. She was kind of directing some of the newbies going through drills, where to be, where to stand. I think that's a great next step for her. I think also maybe initiating herself quicker in games. I think last year, like you said, arguably one of the best players on the floor, if not the best majority of their games. But I think sometimes she maybe waited for it to come to her, or kind of waited for the game for her to be needed, right? And like she obviously was amazing every time that she did step up. But I would like to see her maybe initiate quicker. I think that'd be very interesting to see how can she get things going and stay on that on button the whole on the floor. And maybe that's by being a vocal leader, right? And demanding the teammates step up and demanding, hey, this is where I need you to be. This is where I need you to do this, or this is where if you're here, I can pass it to you and you can kick it out and whatever. So I think that's definitely the next step, is being more vocal, kind of coming out of her shell. And we're starting to see that, at least through social media this off season. Like, she is becoming more vocal. She's becoming a little bit more less reserved, right? A little bit more bubbly. The players always said she was always like that, and her just being reserved was just a front she had with the media. And that's true. I mean, that would be me. I would definitely so I understand that. So I think we'll see a little bit more relaxed version of her as well, as she starts to come into herself, just as, college maturity in general. Yeah, fair. Last year, Aubrey Griffin was called grandma. Is that Caroline now? I don't know. She refers to herself, I think, as mom a lot. So maybe she's just mom. It doesn't matter that she's a fifth year. She tends to. That's like, I think, what she refers to herself online, at least through social media, we can see. Okay, fair enough. And let's talk about her game. You mentioned she looked good and healthy, and thank God for that. People have on our YouTube mentions and in our social media, people have really kind of harped on the fact that when she's right, she should start. Do you think that's even in the realm of possibility? Because I mean, there's so many good players. Like, where would she fit into that? I'm not saying she can't. I'm just curious. Right. I mean, if you would have asked me in February when she came back, I would have been like, I don't think so, right? Like, this girl has a while to go. But if you're asking me, like, after Sunday, I feel like definitely. I think she definitely could start. And I think Geno might lean on her because she has the experience, because she's a veteran. She can kind of ease people's nerves. She knows what she's doing. She's very vocal. And maybe until AZ becomes that vocal, you put her in there to kind of, egg AZ to be more vocal and to kind of be that stabilized veteran leader on the floor. I would not be surprised at all if she starts. If she's starting all the games, I don't know. But if she's starting a handful of games, I definitely would assume that. She has come, her journey is just incredible, and learning what she did to get her head right and her brain right, like, it's just inspiring. And it's really cool to see her kind of look comfortable again on the basketball floor, right? And not that she was ever afraid of getting hit again, but you can see she's playing a lot more freely just from Sunday's practice. And I think that'll be huge to have her. She's such a weapon offensively that will just, again, add to their arsenal.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm happy for her. Just from a human perspective, forget basketball. I'm just glad she's out there and, enjoying herself, because it's been a wild ride. It's in a sometimes good, sometimes bad way. You know what I mean? So it's good to see her happy. And obviously we had a team there taking video, and I saw a bunch of pictures. It's good to see the kids smiling. Let's just put it that way, right? They're having a good time. And that's the dad in me. So there we go. She's mom. I'm the dad. I'm like, oh, look, great. My daughter just turned 1, so I'm obviously in my feels for that. So I want to see everyone happy. I wonder about Geno, because you mentioned he's probably not going to do a Tennessee hockey line situation, and I don't think that should be the case either. But I wonder if he'll do change his perspective on this, because he has so many healthy players. Is there a thought that that this exhibition game against Boston College on the 13th, I believe, is coming up? Do you think he's going to show a little bit of what the experimental lineup type of way, maybe Caroline starts, but maybe she doesn't start during opening day. Maybe Gandy will get a little run, because there's so many players, and we could literally run it down. He has 15 players. Right. That if you cut this team in half and you took the best players, they're the number 1 team in the country. 7 through 15 might be number 11 in the country. They're that good, in my opinion. How do you think he handles it early, from exhibition to, let's say, the very first big non-conference game?
Yeah, I think definitely he'll take the 2 exhibitions to experiment with lineups, experiment starting lineups. During the open practice on Sunday, we saw there was 2 different, the blue and white scrimmage, and the blue team with starters, if I can remember correctly. It was AZ, KK, Sarah Strong. We had, was it Hallie was on that team maybe to start, or Kaylee, and then I think it was Sarah Williams.
Okay.
I'll double check that. They switched. They did after the first quarter. Everyone was on the blue team, so it got a little complicated. But I definitely could see him experimenting with starting lineups. I think that's a good chance to see, okay, who can be a leader, who can be vocal, who can ease everyone's tension when they're on the floor, and who has this, the durability to be a starter, right? You're going to be playing the most minutes, you're going to be carrying a lot of the load, and we haven't seen, we saw KK start her freshman year when they were decimated by injuries.
Sure.
She had to, right? And last year, she obviously came off the bench because Paige was back, AZ was back towards the end there, and so I think it'll be interesting to see how he gives KK the reins. Is he giving KK all 40 minutes? Probably not, but is he giving her 25 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? That'll be really interesting, and seeing where he can bring in Kaylee Heckle, who has shown she's a good point guard and shown she has good ball handling and can shoot very well as well. I think he'll definitely experiment. I think, the healthy roster is great, but I think covering this UConn team, you kind of have to cross your fingers and hope it stays healthy, right? Because this team has started with a healthy roster before, and it's gotten decimated early.
Yeah, and between him and on the men's side with Coach Early talking about how the 15-man roster essentially helps because you can practice harder, you can get more rest. So I do think that even, God forbid, I don't want anyone to get hurt, but if they did have a few kind of nicks and bumps along the way, at least you have the players that are capable to kind of fill those shoes versus Geno looking down at the bench and being like, I can only play these six people. Right. So that's good from just kind of covering in perspective, not good for the kids getting hurt. But and then this has been also a topic of discussion internally and then, with some fans, which is how good is Blanca Kyonas?
Yeah, probably the biggest disappointment of Sunday was not seeing her, right?
Really?
She did some of the warm-up drills, and then she sat out. She didn't do the 4-man weave. She didn't do the defensive drill. She just did one drill with all the post players, and that was the warm-up. And so I think that was the biggest bummer of not getting a chance to see her and see what she can do. She has such great experience playing against professionals, playing against older, bigger women, that I'm really intrigued to see what she can do, what she brings. she has such a good shot and she has such a good just length that she can be dangerous anywhere. So I'm very excited to see how she fits in, kind of where Geno puts her in terms of, does he put her kind of in that 3-4 position? Who is she playing with? Who can she complement? So hopefully we see her in the exhibition just to get a chance to see what she brings, what she's like. Granted, she didn't come over from Ecuador until middle of August, so she's still probably feeling herself out, which is totally fine and normal. But that's something I'll definitely be looking forward to on the exhibitions to see how she plays.
Do you think that maybe he's doing similar to what, and I'm not putting Blanca in AZ's category, but in the respect of, as AZ worked her way back to full strength last year, she had like a couple of setbacks, but at the same time, he didn't play her like a full, load of minutes until towards the end of the year. So, and I made a point last year to say that this is almost like getting a great player at the trading deadline in the WNBA. Like, do you think that could end up being Blanca's almost like the secret power, like, where he just goes, well, we have this ace in the hole that we're going to insert, in big time minutes more in like January, and kind of bring them to a whole other level.
I mean, maybe we don't really know what her situation is, right? Maybe she has a nagging thing. I don't want to wish that, but like maybe
Sure.
The whole thing. Maybe she's still adapting, right? Moving to the States from never being here is very hard and it's very overwhelming. So maybe she's just trying to figure herself out still and figure out just college. But hopefully, I think she will definitely bring a huge asset to the team, and just be another weapon they can take off the bench for sure.
For sure. Who surprised you with their game, or maybe their personality is what you didn't expect? Is there a player, especially ones that maybe the newbies like Kaylee, like Sarah Williams, Khalees Fisher? Curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I think Kaylee surprised me the most just from what we saw on Sunday. I was kind of curious of how is she going to fit in and what is she going to bring. UConn already has such a loaded backcourt, right? Like what? Sure. I think a lot of people were curious of why bring her in when you already had 14 players. You had so many guards. She had 1 year of experience at USC, and she did play a good amount, but she wasn't a starter. What would her role be? And just from Sunday, watching her just have no fear, no hesitation, she got right in it. She didn't look fake. She looked comfortable, and she was quick, and she was just really sturdy with the ball, whether it was shooting, whether it was ball handling, running the offense. Like, I think she surprised me a lot with how quickly she has found her spot within this team. And I would imagine she will be the 6th player off this bench, or maybe even probably the 6th player if coming in for KK to run the point. I think that'll be super important for KK and for the team to have another kind of breather to come off the bench who knows what they're doing. I think she probably definitely was surprising me the most on Sunday.
Okay. As far as the expectations for this team, they're always incredibly high. Some might say they are unrealistic, but it's hard to not assume that they're going to be in the Final Four, that they're going to be competing for a national championship. What are some potential pitfalls outside of injury? Let's just put that aside because that's always tough. Do you see for this team that could potentially trip them up to kind of meet those expectations, like that championship or bust mentality?
Yeah, I think leadership will be the biggest question mark heading into the season. Paige was such a presence, whether it was her voice, whether it was just her ability to know the next play and know the right play and know who to get involved at what time. I think you're not going to replace Paige. And I don't think they're trying to. I think they're trying to be like, okay, who can step up and be a leader, right? And AZ has shown that she's a great lead by example. Can she bring out their more vocal side? Caroline is a great vocal leader. Can she be healthy enough to stay on the floor to use that, right? You have Sarah Strong, can she kind of step into more of an upperclassman role despite just being a sophomore? So I think that'll be huge, especially when it comes to big games and, down the stretch moments of who is going to be that player to kind of bring everyone down, bring everyone together, and really connect everyone to make that big play, to stay in the game or to make the next stop, to get the next defensive stop. So that's my biggest question mark is who's going to rise and be that stabilizing presence.
Okay. It's a great answer. Defensively, I've made an argument that this team could suffocate teams on a level that we haven't seen in a while. I think you saw some of that last year with KK being pressuring the ball, but the amount of people, the amount of speed they have, the amount of guards they have, the waves that they could come in and kind of, do you think they're going to do a lot more? Whereas there have many talks about, full court pressure or, pressing a little bit to kind of just utilize the fact that they have a lot of players.
Yeah, again, we haven't talked to Geno yet this season, so we don't quite know what he's thinking. But I would imagine they have, like you said, such a weapon on the backcourt. They have a lot of quick players, a lot of different sized players, which I think is super helpful. Gandy is super long. Blanca is super long. Sarah Williams is super long. So I think having that length is going to be huge in the post, where maybe in previous years they haven't had as much healthy length, right? They've had a lot of big players, but they've been injured. And so I think having that, even Yana coming in, Yana was also a good surprise on Sunday with her just being able to look really good after not playing basketball for 2 years. So I'd imagine they're going to be just as aggressive on defense as they were last year. Having so many healthy bodies on both ends will be huge for any opponent, no matter who it is, no matter what size. So I feel like they'll be just as aggressive.
Okay. All right. Let's have a little fun. We've been doing this kind of with guests, and I went to dinner last night, and this feeds right into the scenario I'm going to paint for you. Okay. And so my wife and I had this really nice meal and great service, which we typically do not get. We're like cursed when it comes to that. So we get this great service, but I ordered a steak and they brought it back and it was totally overcooked.
Ooh.
So we send it back and then they come back again and it's completely undercooked. So, and everything else was great. Everything else about the meal. My wife got cocktails, the appetizers, the whole deal, right? The waitress was fantastic. If that happened, not to you, but to this coaching staff, what is the reaction to that? Is it like, because I thought I handled it pretty well, which was just like, hey, listen, everything was great. So, but except for the main part of the meal, the reason why we came here, do you think that they still, and this is so funny because we've been doing this, do you think they're tipping normal, or do you think they're going, oh man, that was a bust. We're gonna have to cut that tip a little bit.
So I guess I could definitely see Geno sending it back because he knows good food, right? Like
sure.
He knows what good food is. CD, I think, definitely would do the same because she has claimed herself as a picky eater. So I feel like if it's not to her standing, she would definitely want it to be. As for tipping, I don't know. I mean, I think both of them would respond respectfully and probably be like, hey, here's a fair tip for what you did. I don't know if they would dock it totally. I don't think either one of them would do that. But I think they wouldn't give them the biggest tip, right?
Sure. And listen, I thought I tipped well because I just was like, I didn't want to ruin the waitress did all this work and she's bringing us all these different things, and she didn't cook it wrong,
right?
You know what I mean? So I tried to compartmentalize and kind of bring in that frustration.
No, I definitely, that's like something I'm working on is being like, okay, don't settle for this if it's not what you ordered or it's not good or edible. Like, I'm definitely someone who is timid by sending food back, but I'm trying to work on that. I'm like, if I'm paying for this and it's what I ordered, I need to be at least edible and I need it to be like something I like. So I'm trying to work on that. That was a whole discussion during one of our son dinners this year on the beat was like, what do you do if you don't like the food? Like, do you send it back? Do you tell them it was nasty? Like, so I'm trying to work on being more aggressive, not aggressive. That's the wrong word, but being more like
assertive.
Assertive. Yeah.
Well, I mean, let me ask: Have you ever worked in a restaurant?
I worked at an ice cream shop, so it doesn't.
Okay. I mean, you're still working with people,
right?
Yeah, I think for me, because my wife and I both have worked in the food service industry, where we're just kind of like, like hypersensitive to the fact that sometimes that's not the easiest job in the world,
right?
And that's been kind of a running theme. Like I've been, anytime I've had a guest, like we've actually put up, like with Tia, we joked around like I'm gonna put up a name of a coach and say what percentage tip is this person? What's their standard tip? And so and because I was like a bartender and a waiter, and my wife did the same thing, so it's just been funny, and like some of the answers have been great, and yours was fantastic as well. So yeah, I just thought that was an interesting scenario, and of course it happened last night. So. But listen, Maggie, I really appreciate it. Can you tell people where to find all of your, everything that you do with Connecticut Insider?
Yeah, you can find me online at ctinsider.com or New Haven Register, Journal Inquirer. On Twitter, X, I am at Maggie_Vanoni, and I only use Twitter because I cannot manage another app.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I'm with you. Well, listen, Maggie is going to be on the beat for us, not for us, but obviously for all of us because we're fans. And go check her out. Love her writing, love her perspective on the UConn women. Thanks again. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. That was Maggie Vanoni of Connecticut Insider, New Haven Register, giving us great perspective on the open practice and the upcoming season. We hope to have her as a regular contributor to the Hoops Cat Pod on the women's side and talk to her frequently during the year. Some of the questions that she answered, Blanca Kyonas doesn't appear to be injured, more just kind of being cautious because she just got to campus, but didn't play much or at all really in the open practice. Talking about the people that were exciting to her, Caroline Ducharme, AZ obviously played well, but Kaylee Heckle, she said, was very impressive. So all things that don't surprise me at all. I think the one surprise was that she mentioned that because of her time there and because of how much Geno, understands how much leadership they lost, it wouldn't surprise her if Caroline got starts early in the year. And honestly, that's a great call. I think I was always waiting to kind of know if she's healthy to make that kind of proclamation. And apparently she's incredibly healthy and happy and playing good basketball. So I'm really excited for her. And maybe that's the case. Maybe she's in that starting lineup. And again, I caution anybody that watches this to not put too much credence in who starts and who plays minutes, because just because you start doesn't mean you finish the game. And there's so many good players in this team. It's very possible that they get a starting lineup that doesn't close out games as time goes on. So this has been another episode of The Hoops Cat. I'm really happy that you guys joined us, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon. As always, go Huskies.
Let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it, let's get it. Yeah. UConn, baby. Home of the champions.